Welcome back and to this section on installing Adobe Photoshop and Premiere Elements. Now before we get into the actual install, let's get a couple of things clear. First off, I don't have any real strong affiliation with Adobe. I don't have any monetary stuff going on with them. I just use their software. Second, if you use another tool, some come free with your operating system. Adobe certainly has competitors. That's not a problem as far as I'm concerned. You're still certainly going to benefit from this videos. However, to gain the most, you're certainly going to need to be able to follow along with Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Premiere Elements. As such, what I'm going to do here in the next few minutes is download and install the free 14-day trial of these pieces of software. That way you can follow along in this course whether you decide to purchase them or not. Finally, with respect to some of the competitors, the free ones are actually not that bad at all. They do a pretty nice job. I prefer the Adobe tools simply because the free ones will eventually run out of gas and won't let you do some of the things that we're going to look at. As to some of the competitors of Adobe, these things all crash. If you're going to use these tools for any length of time, they are going to freeze up on your computer and crash. It just comes with the territory. These things are incredible resource hogs. The reason I don't use one competitor in particular anymore, which actually has probably more functionality than the Adobe ones, is because it crashed every time I used it, and I just got too frustrated with it and chose not to use it anymore. Okay, given those caveats, let's go ahead and learn how to download and install Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Premiere Elements. First and foremost, let me talk about the current version. It is now July 2016, and the current version for each of these pieces of software is version 14. That's what we're going to be using in the next sections. As new versions come out, I'll download them and update those sections to keep everybody up to date. As to downloading and or installing these softwares, you really got a couple of options. As I just suggested, we're going to demonstrate downloading the free trial versions of each of these. Alternatively, you can choose to purchase them online. You should be eligible for the student discounts, in which case you can purchase both of these tools for about $80 US. Alternatively, if you go to one of your computer stores and buy it there and have them install it or install it using the discs, it's going to run you about $150 US. All right, given that background, let's go ahead and jump into the actual install process. All right, given all that background, we can now start to download and install the trial version of Adobe Photoshop Elements version 14. We begin with a simple Google search on Adobe Photoshop Elements free trial download. Not surprising, Adobe comes up at the top of our search list and we jump right to the Adobe sign-in page. Now I have a real Adobe account where all my software keys are stored. But I want to use that sign in here because I don't feel like sharing that account with the world. So just a couple of minutes ago, I went on to Google and created a false identity to use for this download demonstration. Mr. Not Real 3203, please step forward and create a new Adobe account so we can download this free trial. Oh, isn't that odd? Mr. Not Real 3203 and I even shared birth date. Couple more silly questions and I can finally start the download. Wow, 1.35 gigabytes? This is going to take a while, so I will go get a cup of coffee while this thing is downloading. I'll also save you the agony of watching the download for 9.5 minutes and just jump ahead here in time. Now, Adobe does a two-phase install. Don't ask why, I have no idea. But once the download is complete, go ahead and run the executable. The install routine will do some file extractions and eventually will be shown this screen, which asks you whether you want to launch the program. Well, it does eventually launch the program, but first it has to finish the install. To finish the install, you have to tell the install program whether you want the free trial version or to install with a key. We'll install a free trial version, so click on that choice and sit back and wait another 5 or 10 minutes while the install completes. Okay, next log back into the Adobe site so we can take care of their license agreement, and then finally the product gets installed after another 5-minute wait. Ta-da! All right, next thing we have to do is to move that desktop launch icon into our personal toolbar. By the way, if you don't know how to do this, then you need to watch my intro course entitled Fundamental Computer Skills for the Digital Middle Age. Oh my, wasn't that a shameless plug? Anyway, once we have moved that launch icon, we're now ready to install Adobe Premiere Elements version 14. Exact same process, except this time we'll search on Adobe Premiere Elements for free trial. Another half an hour later and we're up and running with both Adobe Premiere and Photoshop Elements version 14 on our box. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if you do eventually decide you want to purchase these tools, you do not need to reinstall them. All you need to do is go on to the Adobe site and log in, make the purchase, and in your account, they will put up some activation keys. Just go ahead and install those activation keys into the software, and your trial version is now a production version. Nothing really changed other than those keys. And finally, if this whole install process is a little scary to you, remember you can take your box down to your local computer store, and those folks there will be glad to install this software on your behalf. However, please understand you are going to pay the full market price and probably an extra 10 or 20 US dollars to have them install it. Okay, that concludes our install section. Thanks for sticking with me on this one. In our next section, we're going to actually launch Photoshop Elements for the first time and start using it. As such, what I'd like for all of you to do as homework is go out there, get that camera working, and shoot, 100, 150 shots, bunch of portraits, bunch of landscapes, some in full, some in pre-program, and get some stuff that we can start practicing on in Photoshop. Okay, that's the end of this one. Remember, keep on learning.